Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of In the Zone, episode 129. Oh God. I am Anthony Pagniello, joined as always by Giancarlo Aulino, Chris Martelli. Boys, we're going to kick it off with some hockey. The number one player in the NHL, and it has not even been close. Connor McDavid, 91 points in 50 games. Chris, go from there.
Yeah, I remember when he first came into the league and everyone was saying, "Oh, yeah, this guy's going to be better than Crosby. This is his league now." And he didn't even play a game yet in the league, and everyone's like, "Okay, you know what? Let's just see how it goes." And I remember the first year, he was still over a point a game when he got hurt, when he got tied up with Brandon Manning, and then they became teammates, and then guess what happened after that? Brandon Manning out of nowhere just got released from Edmonton mysteriously. So, yeah, don't hurt McDavid. That's the first thing. But yeah, this year has just been a different type of McDavid. It kind of reminds me of Kucherov 2 years ago and how dominant offensively he's been. He's been in a completely different league of his own. I mean, even the other year, Kucherov, I think, was about 20 points ahead of McDavid in the scoring. I think he had 128 and McDavid had like 111, something like that. But this year, it's been done since I want to say like late February. I want to say that was when the scoring race was already basically done. McDavid won the Art Ross. It's not even close. He's at 91 and 50. He's also already a 30-goal scorer in 50 games. That's also impressive. He's over an assist a game. It's just a lot of people are probably going to say it's because of the Canadian division. But we all know how awesome McDavid's been. I think he has 4 straight 100-point years. This guy could probably pass Sidney Crosby in points per game just based off of Crosby's concussion history and how he missed those couple of years. But this Connor McDavid, when it's all said and done and you look at the greatest of all time, this type of Connor McDavid is up there with the Lemieux and Gretzky's because it's literally just his league. And it's not even close. No one is remotely near this guy. And McKinnon, we all know how great he's been.
Yeah, McDavid, I agree with you. I think McDavid is just on another level when you look at everyone in the league. This is a guy who had that shoulder issue his first season when he got hit from behind. That was probably the slowest start to his career. Getting out, he was a little nervous, I think. But once he got going, he was almost a point per game after that. Then after he tore his ACL, which is insane, comes back, gets over 100 points, like nothing. And it hasn't really affected him. He's still that crazy, athletic player. He has that speed. He goes in, scores, goes by a whole team's defense, and makes it look easy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being one of the players that gets as close to 170 to 200 points range in this era. I think he's capable of doing it. Like when you're looking at guys like Crosby was looked at as a Gretzky, like Lindros, and then concussions stopped their progression. If you look at McDavid, that's a realistic thing for him. I think he can be the one to challenge like those kind of guys from the 80s and 90s with points per game when it's all done.
Like when you really look at it too, he should have 100 points every year he's played. Just because you guys brought up the injury the first year, he was on track, did it the next 3 years, and then last 2 years, not enough games. Otherwise, he's right there. So, yeah, McDavid is like that. But you brought up the North Division before, Chris. What are their playoff chances looking like? Because all everyone's hearing is about Toronto. Now they have to run away with the division. But if you got McDavid and Draisaitl and they're going off the way that they are, yes, and that's the big matchup, obviously, in the North.
Yeah, that's the money match for sure. I wouldn't say it's probably the best matchup, but it's a money match. I wanted to say Winnipeg and Toronto are I want to say the top 2 teams in that division, even though they got McDavid and Draisaitl. I just think, Mike Smith and Koskinen, that's just not good enough for you in the postseason unless we get a vintage Mike Smith performance. But yeah, McDavid can do it. He can carry it. Last year, coming off of that injury and then facing Taves and Kane in the playoffs, I knew that. I actually had Chicago winning that series just based off of experience and how great Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves and their legacies are in the playoffs. So we all know Connor McDavid. He's only been in 2 playoff series, or 3, I think, in his career. And, we all know how they both ended. They both ended pretty detrimentally, like pretty bad. I remember when they blew that lead against Anaheim and they lost that series, and then they lost last year. It was an upset to Chicago. So I think he's going to be motivated this year. I think this is an Edmonton team where if you're a Toronto, if you're a Winnipeg, if you're maybe a Carolina, any team like that, I don't want to face Edmonton just based off of how motivated McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be, because they want to translate those numbers in the regular season to playoff success and, of course, to a Stanley Cup. So I've said this before in numerous pods. We've talked about Sidney Crosby and how great he is, but that, to me, is based more on his 2009 Cup when he was around 23, 22 years old. I know he was in a different sort of situation than McDavid, but I think we have to start noticing and we have to start realizing that if McDavid really can't get a cup in the next 2-3 years, then we might have to still give the edge to Sidney Crosby when you look at it from a successful standpoint. And yeah, McDavid, he went on Edmonton, and they've had that first overall pick type of curse for years, and they haven't been able to generate a great team around him. But yeah, like you said, come playoff time, if I'm any team in the Eastern Conference, I don't want to face the Edmonton Oilers.
Just Edmonton, though, like, I know they have Draisaitl, McDavid, but other than that, like, is there anything that really jumps out at you as something scary? Like Tyson Barrie, remember he was on the Leafs last year, didn't really do anything. On Edmonton, he's founding his scoring touch there. But if you're looking at Edmonton's roster, if those 2 guys aren't going, you don't really have something that jump out at you like Toronto. If Tavares isn't going, you have Matthews. If Matthews isn't going, you have Marner, you have Nylander, you have Spezza who's come up. So I think if you're Edmonton, Toronto does have a lot more guys capable of stealing a game. If you're Edmonton, if it's not McDavid or Draisaitl, you have to really rely on Nuge to come up, and sometimes that's been asking a lot. Like we look at last year when they played Chicago. So I don't know where they're going to go. Even goaltending, I would still give the Leafs an edge there. It's all going to come down to matchups and who's on their game at that moment.
I'm going to give Nurse some love, too. I think he's got like 17 goals this year. I think other than him and Tyson Barrie, because they've been having, like Toronto, defense issues for like our whole lives. So the fact that they're playing well now and McDavid and Draisaitl are just carrying the load, I think that's a 7-game series. I give Toronto the edge, though, based off what you said. There's just more guys. We got a lot more depth. There's more to rely on when certain guys aren't going. So, oh God, I'd pay to see that one.
Yeah, like you mentioned, do they have enough to beat Toronto and Winnipeg? And the simple answer here is they don't. But you just talk about, Draisaitl has 76 points in 51, and then you have the McDavid 91, and Tyson Barrie, I think, has 45 and 51. And it's been a great year. Not as great as we would think from Nugent Hopkins. He's missed a couple games, and he's only at about 35 points. Darnell Nurse is also in the 30s in points. And, of course, I think this guy could be a sneaky scorer in the postseason. You guys are probably going to laugh, but if you want to talk about an X factor on this team, it's young players like Yamamoto and Puljujarvi. Like, Puljujarvi is really starting to find his game, and if this guy can get you, like, 5 to 7 goals, 5 to 8 goals in the postseason, then that's an X factor right there. We've seen it in the past with teams like Tampa Bay all those years ago with Fedotenko and these guys that you don't really know, and they're going to start scoring. And I remember, I think it was 2011, like Dustin Penner with the LA Kings scoring like 8 goals. So you really don't know. I know they do have some under the radar type players, like Puljujarvi's really pulling it together. A guy like a Dominic Cahoon can really score a couple goals. I also like Tyler Ennis, man. This guy, he works hard every shift. If they give him an opportunity on any power play unit, I think he could thrive. But we really got to give Edmonton's defense corps a little more credit, I think, than what we do. I mean, Barrie and Nurse this year have been elite defensemen. Chris Russell has been doing his job for years, And, Mike Smith is finally starting to look a lot more confident than he has in the last couple of years. So even like a guy like a James Neal, as funny as it is, if this guy can come in, if you want to maybe sit him the rest of the way, and then he comes in the playoffs healthy, you could put him on maybe the second power play unit. We all know he's got a cannon. And how about that other guy in the playoffs that lays all the hits, Zach Cassian? I don't know, man. We talked about this team not having enough, but when it comes to the playoffs, it's a completely different season. And I think guys like Zach Cassian, James Neal, Tyler Ennis, they're going to be more motivated than ever before. So I'm still looking out for Edmonton, even though you look at their depth and it doesn't really shine on paper.
Yeah, Edmonton doesn't have Zachy. That's Toronto's guy. So jumps out over there. It's Zachy.
Hey, you failed to mention your boy there. You named the whole team. You forgot Adam Larson.
Oh, you went there.
Comfortably settled into a bottom six role. Solid.
Yeah, he just gets the block shots, playing his role. Doing it well.
Similar to Russell. So they got those guys on the back end. Ethan Bear's been a nice little surprise. So yeah, they're sneaky good for sure.
You know who else is sneaky good? Our boy, Auston Matthews.
Oh.
How many goals do you think he puts up now? It looks like he's getting into that 40 range. A few more games to go. Does he get 45? Does he get 50? Or does he does he cool off for the rest of the year?
How many games are left?
I want to say like 3 games. I'll say he hits 40. Right on 40.
He's got to get 40. Can't finish with 39.
Yeah, and that's an impressive marker, man. Like that, we talk about numbers like McDavid's 91, and you got to look at Matthews' 40 as just as impressive. I mean, this guy, he's scoring. I want to the last 2 weeks. For me, it feels like he scores every game. That's how special he is. Every time I've watched the game, he's pretty much scored. And the last 4 games, he's been scoring in different ways. And that's just how skilled he is. He shows it. His IQ is there. I remember, I think it was last year, I said, when this guy is off, he's invisible. But he has rarely been off this year. He's found another gear. I mean, to me, I think he's a top 5 player in the league, no doubt about it. I don't care if you disclose the North Division being a little weaker defensively. I still think Auston Matthews is a top 5 player in this league. A lot of people have actually disagreed with me when I've said that, just based off of how he is defensively, how he's not really polished as that defensive center. But that's not his role. He's not supposed to be that type of guy, at least not right now on this roster. So 40 goals is just as impressive to me as McDavid's 91 points. I think this guy, he's not going to win the Hart Trophy, but he should definitely be in the conversation.
I think most years he'll be in the conversation. It's just the guy we just talked about, McDavid and McKinnon. But Matthews, kind of in the same situation when you look back on his career, kind of the way it's going. He's going to go down as an all-time great. And he's pushing 40 goals in this bullshit season. He's had more goals and assists in every year in his career so far. Yeah, it's coming all together for Matthews.
It's crazy, though, when you think about it. In a full year, when he gets 40, it's amazing, but he's on pace right now. If this was a full year, we're talking 68 goals right now, 70 goal range. That's next level.
Yeah, it really is. It's nuts. This guy, you don't understand how hard it is to score goals. And I mean, we've looked at guys like Ovi, Stamkos, even a guy like a Kucherov, who I think he could get 50 goals every single year. But you're looking at the pace and just the poise that Matthews has been doing it the last 4 or 5 years, and it's really terrifying. I remember I was saying this to a friend of mine when it came to, like, who do you think the best goal scorers you've ever seen? And, it's usually Ovechkin. But Matthews, when it's all said and done, if he keeps at this pace, he's going to be right there. And when I think of even strength scoring, there's no one as dominant as he is. The only guy that I can think of was way back in the day. I don't know if you guys know him. His name's Mario Lemieux. He was probably the only other most dominant even strength scorer I've ever seen. So Auston Matthews already is in super, super elite company. I know a lot of fans in the United States, they don't like that. So you know what? He is in Toronto. He's in Canada. He is an American native, but you know what? Absolutely killing it with this team. I hope he's a Leafer for life. And yeah, he's definitely going to get a couple 50 goal years. But here's my question to you guys. Is 65 a possibility?
Sure. You just got to stay healthy all year. The talent's there. He's always in the spots. He's only been in the league 5 years. He's got around 200 goals. Like, if you told me 65 right now, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I put money on that. I think Matthews can do it one time.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think he's more than capable of doing it. I wouldn't mind him getting more assists. Like, I know he's more of a shot first type guy, but if he's going to set this stage and become that generational goal scorer like an Ovechkin was, I'm all for it. I think he's more than capable of getting in the 60 range. Like Stamkos did it, and he was, I don't know, he kind of started off a little slower the first season, but then all of a sudden he started getting 60 and then being a perennial like 50-goal guy. So I think Matthews has it in him. He's just as capable with his shots. I think he's a lot more athletic. So I think he can be a guy that gets 50 to 60 every single year.
What do you guys think of, I know we talk about Auston Matthews closing in on the Rocket, but what are you guys' thoughts on Mitch Marner, the way he's been playing as well? A lot of people say that he's arguably more important to this team than Matthews is. So what are your guys' thoughts on Mitch Marner's play this year? He's well over a point a game. And would you consider him a top 3 winger in this league?
Ooh, top 3 winger, I don't know. I think he's hovering around that, but it's the same thing for Marner. He's been unbelievable ever since we got him. He's been one of our main guys, and he's been carrying the load before JVR and Bozak and those guys took off. So I think he's the best playmaking winger in the league, and he's only getting better. And like him and Matthews, I know they've had no playoff success, and they're 5 years in together, but like because they're still so young and so good, I think the window's like 10 years from now, like how Ovechkin and Backstrom have it. So I'm not worried about early success as they're still progressing as players. And even at this point in their careers, they're both fucking amazing.
Yeah, my boy Mitchie there. I think he's a top 5 right now. He's getting close to that top 3. Big fan of Mitchie. I still think there's something missing. Like, I want him to shoot a lot more. I think that's a big knock. But in terms of playmaking, he's right up there. Like, you look at guys like Patrick Kane, I think that's the ceiling for him. I think he can be at that level in a couple years. And I think he's just as important. I think him and Matthews are the most important. I think he passed Tavares last year with just the way he was able to play. And I think Marner, if the Leafs are going to be successful, it's going to be a lot. And it's going to have to do with Marner's playmaking ability on the power play and 5-on-5, getting them out of situations. So our boy Mitchie, I know he held out a little bit, got the $10 million, but he's worth every penny.
I just want to quickly talk about, before we go into basketball or wrestling, whichever you guys have planned next, I want to talk about the Norris voting because it's actually a lot closer than I thought. I mean, Adam Fox leads all D in points. We all know how great he's been this year, how dynamic that offense has really come around down the stretch. Guys like, Zibanejad, who have absolutely killed it, Ryan Strome, Panarin, Buchnevich, their top 6 has just been on a different level this year, and so has Adam Fox. So out of these 3D, because this is basically how I'm looking at the Norris voting, I think it's probably going to come down to John Carlson, Hedman, and Adam Fox when it's all said and done. I mean, if you're looking at points, but is there any other D out there that you maybe think should get a Norris type of nod? And Who do you guys think is the Norris favorite as of this moment?
For me, I'll probably go Victor Hedman. I recognize the year Adam Fox is having. I don't know why the hell he got passed around a couple years ago. Twice, right? Carolina, then Calgary, and then landed on the Rangers. But yeah, this team's been a mystery to me all year. So they started off kind of all right. Will Panarin started off hot, and then the whole team went cold when Panarin disappeared. Now all of a sudden, everyone on that team has just caught fire, and Adam Fox is the main beneficiary of it. Him and Zibanejad. So I still got Hedman though winning the Norris, but an outside pick, I'd probably say Shea Theodore. Outside of those three that you said.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Like I know Hedman is a favorite all the time, just because he's probably the best defenseman in the game every year. But like if Weber was healthy all year, I'd give him, not because of points, but just because of how important he was to his team. I'd put him maybe in the mix. And Cale Makar is another one. Quinn Hughes, like these guys coming up, but low key, I'm going with Jacob Chikrin of the Arizona Coyotes. This is a really outside the box type of year he's having. I don't think anyone thought he'd be getting these kind of numbers in a shortened year, but I think he's earned it. I think if he didn't play in Arizona, he'd get more media love. But if there's a guy outside of those usual suspects, I'm going to go with Chikrin winning the Norris.
Here's another funny guy that we've loved this guy for years, and he's finally having an elite type of year. I mean, the last 2 years have been actually pretty damn solid, but he's been healthy this year, and he's actually looked unreal. And Pagniello, you're going to laugh when I say this, but do you guys think Chris Letang should get a little bit more Norris love? Because Pittsburgh, I think they're in first in their division. He's got 41 and 51, and he's a solid plus 18. So I don't know if you guys really have been following Letang, but what do you guys think? Do you guys think Letang should maybe be a little X factor for this Norris, or nah?
Yeah, I got him in the kind of where I have like Theodore and a couple of those other guys after. I don't know if he's one of the top candidates, but he should definitely get some love. I think the only thing with him, it's always been this way with him, he's just got to stay healthy. Because whenever he's in the lineup, he's the top 3 offensive defenseman in the league. He's just so good at carrying the play. He does so well for Pittsburgh back there. He's just the perfect mix with Crosby and Malkin for years. So when he plays, he produces. So the fact that he's 34 years old and he's still doing it is amazing. So yes, he should get some more love for sure.
Yeah, he should get more love. Actually, when this season started, I thought he'd be gone. Like one of the guys that they would be trading out to make room on their salary cap to get some other guys. But I don't know. I think maybe like he'll be overlooked this year, but then next year, if he's traded, I think more people will start talking about him more. I think he'll be probably respected a little more in terms of what he offers. But like I agree with Pagniello, if he even plays, he's healthy consistently, he's easily one of the top 3, top 4 offensive defensemen in the game still at his age.
All right. Well, I want to just end it. I want to say, seeing as we talked about the Norris, I just want to quickly talk about the Calder because, like, this is close this year. This is a year with rookies. It's not going to be Lafreniere. It's not going to be Byfield. It's not going to be a guy that went top 3. I'm going to give you guys a couple names here. We got Kaprizov. We got Jason Robertson. We got Kaapo Kähkönen. We got Lankinen. All these guys are going up as a Calder finalist. Who do you guys think is most deserving? I know it's probably going to go to Kaprizov, but do you guys think a guy like a Jason Robertson has a solid enough case to maybe come away with the Calder?
For me, it's Kaprizov, and it's easy, and it's a runaway. But this year for rookies has really been surprising because there have been so many names I haven't fucking heard of. There's been so many guys coming over from Europe recently. It's throwing me off. But Minnesota was one of those teams. I had them like bottom 2, bottom 3. They're one of the like least interesting teams in the league, and he comes in and he just destroyed the fucking script and wrote his own. So The Wild are solid, and they're fun to watch, and he's the main reason why.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Kaprizov. He's been unbelievable this year, and you know what? When we're thinking about the draft, like these guys had 8 months where they didn't play, and they get drafted. They had all that time to work on their bodies and all that. You think it's disappointing that we didn't see like a Lafreniere, Byfield, like anyone else come out and really make a statement this first year? Because I've hardly heard their names, and Byfield
Yeah,
got his debut. So, like in terms of all the prep, they had something other like rookies in the past didn't have, and I didn't really, especially Lafreniere, he came in right away and nothing.
yeah. For me. It's still like puzzling to me how Lafreniere he's slowly started to gain some traction in terms of points, but it didn't really click the first year. And you know what? It's okay. I mean, guys like Stamkos got like 40 points in the first year, so I'm not really worried. Like even Svechnikov, we all know how great he is now with Carolina. In his first year, he had like 30 points. So for me, the first year, it's not as concerning. But when you talk about how touted he was, and again, like you said, he had 8 months off. He was just basically training to get into this spot, and then of course it's a big letdown, and you kind of just start scratching your head. But a guy that has not been a letdown is Tim Stutzel. This guy went third overall. I knew he would be a great player. At times, him and Drake Batherson and I think Stepan, these guys have all been battling all year for the number one center spot. I still think it's Stutzel's already. I mean, the stuff that I've been seeing from him, we all joke about Ottawa and how bad they've been, but this is a really, really awesome bright spot for them. You look at Stutzel, you look at Brady Tkachuk, you look at Josh Norris, quietly almost has 20 goals too. So these young guys on Ottawa, they're not to be taken lightly. And I'm still going to say, Pagniello, I know you're going to think, I still think trading away Mark Stone for Eric Brandstrom is still something that's not looking too good. But getting Tim Stutzel in last year's draft right now, I think right now he's a better player than Lafreniere. He probably won't be, though, in the big scheme of things while he's playing with a Panarin and as a Zibanejad. But I do think that out of all the rookies that I've seen coming out of this draft, I think Stutzel might be the best player at the moment.
Yeah, he's been pretty solid. Ottawa's been they've been refreshing. I know like they're at the bottom of the league, but all their young guys and a lot of them are producing some serious numbers for the situation they're in. So Josh Norris is having a nice year. Batherson, Tkachuk, Connor Brown's going to score 20 goals, hopefully. I think he's
This guy's smiling. I could hear it.
They picked up Dadonov in the offseason just to add some spice to that, some veteran presence there. So you gotta like their situation. The rebuild it's fucking over next year. They got all their picks at once, so all these young guys are gonna grow together, and Ottawa's gonna be in a great situation.
Okay, but so we all agree that Kaprizov is going to win the Calder. He is 24, so it does kind of relate back to how when Artemi Panarin won it when he was 24. But I want to quickly talk about the two goalies that are in this discussion because you guys all know me. I love hockey, but going into this year, I had no idea who Kevin Lankinen and Kaapo Kähkönen were. So, because I remember you look at who Chicago had, and they had they had Subban and Delia at the beginning of the year as being their tandem, which sounds hilariously bad. And then you had Minnesota with Talbot. Who was the other goal? I think it was Stalock or someone else. They had Talbot and someone else, and Kähkönen was a third string. And now all of a sudden, Kähkönen and Lankinen are both the number one future goalies for their respected, maybe not now with Talbot being healthy, but what are your guys' initial thoughts moving forward? Do you guys take Kaapo Kähkönen or do you guys take Lankinen moving forward?
Take it, buddy.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a toss-up. I'll probably go leaning towards Lankinen. I like what I see out of him. I think he has more potential, at least in the short term of what I saw. But I don't think you can go really wrong with either one. They both had a great season to start off their careers, and it's just going to be now the second season will they get into that sophomore slump, or will they be able to build on it? So that's going to be a big question mark going into next year. Will these teams go after another goalie because they'll maybe think it's a one and done, or will they have faith going forward? So we're going to see whichever team goes and thinks that their goalie could be the goalie of the future. It's going to be interesting to see which one of them will be.
Ditto.
Yeah, I you know what's funny too? If you're Minnesota and you have Talbot, you paid the money to get him in the off season. Kaprizov finally comes over. He's your star that you've been waiting for. Eric Sinek is improving. You have Kevin Fiala, you have Jordan Greenway coming up. If you're Minnesota, let's say they have a successful playoff run this year. Let's say they go past the first round and then they maybe get knocked out in the semis. Are you sticking with a guy like a Cam Talbot? So this is how I'm gonna word this for you guys. So you guys remember the whole Fleury and Murray debacle with Pittsburgh. If Kaapo Kähkönen is supposed to be as good as advertised, are you letting Cam Talbot walk and have Kaapo Kähkönen take the start next year, or are you gonna kind of still take that Tristan Jarry type approach that Pittsburgh did, in that yes, you had Fleury and Murray, and when you trade one of them, you just ease Jarry into it. So are you easing Kähkönen into it next year as playing about 40 games, or are you giving Kähkönen the keys to the crease?
I'd probably ease him into it. I think for Minnesota, there's not really a huge rush to get things going here. So with Talbot, like he's 33, 34 years old, something like that. I don't think there's any need to just shove him out of the crease. Just get whatever you can out of him. Still let the kid develop. Kaprizov's 24, Fiala's only 24. Like, the young guys are still young. I don't think Minnesota's in any rush here. I think they're overachieving, but they're definitely having a year. So I wouldn't rush things. Just keep going with the process. Maybe go 50-50 next year.
Yeah, I'll go in a different approach. Cam Talbot, I'd say, yeah, go walk. Because the goalie market's going to have Anderson, it's going to have Talbot. Like, all these names are going to be looking at big contracts. And one name that actually jumps out, who I think Minnesota should go after, Jake Allen. You bring him in, you can split with those guys. Jake Allen knows his role, Stanley Cup winner, and they can make it work. So if there's a goalie out there, I think Minnesota should try going after Jake Allen for a little bit of a cheaper deal. And you have your goalie of the future come in, and everyone's happy, and everyone can still develop at the same time. If you have Talbot, might slow things down, might set you off a little bit. So Allen, I think, is a better fit.
To end this hockey thing, I just want to quickly say, so we got Minnesota overachieving, and now Nashville is slowly made their way into a playoff spot. Which team is more for real this year?
Oh, I'll go Nashville just based off history. It's tough. They've been one of those better teams the last little while. They have a lot of their main guys still there. They know how to get the job done at times. So I have more faith in Nashville if both of them, they both made it. So got to go with the Preds there.
Yeah, I think the Preds have to, because like, they spent a lot of money before. The big knock on them was they wouldn't get a forward. They couldn't afford to get a guy at the cap, and then they went right to the cap, and they were unsuccessful. They had the best defense in the league for the longest time, and now you're in a position where all these forwards you brought in, you overpaid for them. So I think they need them to get going, and if they are, they're for real compared to other these teams. So I'll go Nashville too.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think Saros, it's crazy to think too, because Rinne, he has been doing his thing for about 2 decades, and that's a long time. And now Saros, I think he's already around 25, 26. He's been waiting for a while to be the starting goalie, and it's slowly starting to pan out now. I mean, this guy, I think he's a top 10 goalie. You're looking at the year he's had. If you look at his stats, I think he might be a top 10 goalie. He's scratching the surface right there. So if Saros can continue these numbers, maybe this leads to a guy like a Roman Josi staying for the long term. Maybe this leads to a Ryan Ellis staying and maybe this team doesn't end up dismantling like I originally thought maybe a month or two ago. But I still think guys like Matt Duchene, maybe Ryan Johansson, maybe even a Michael Granlund, maybe all these guys could potentially, be on the way out just based off of the position Nashville's in. But if a guy that can maybe give all these guys some hope, it's probably UC Saros, because he's been absolutely incredible. So I will also say Nashville, just based off of how Saros has played. I think Nashville could steal a series here. I think they can upset a team. Maybe I won't say a Vegas, but maybe a team like, I don't know, like a Dallas or someone else who's in the postseason there. But we got to move on to the NBA. This is going to be pretty funny because, as we all know, LeBron James and the LA Lakers, before they came back or before they got injured, they were well in second place, and all of a sudden they get hurt and they just fall to seventh place. So now LeBron James, we all know how much of a figure he is in the NBA world, not even the NBA world, just in the world in general. He speaks out about the play-in tournament, and he says that whoever made this should be fired. I think this is absolutely hilarious. He knows this has been happening for a year, and he's like, yeah, I think whoever made this should be fired. What are your guys' thoughts on LeBron's stance? Is this just, him being tired and fed up? But it looks like right now the Lakers, they won't even have to be, in this play-in tournament. Right now they're sitting in fifth place. They're a game ahead of the Mavs. And Aulino, if the playoffs were today, the LA Lakers would be facing the Clippers. So that's also another topic we got to talk about. So first of all, I'll ask, what are your thoughts speaking out? And secondly, who are you taking?
I don't think there's much to it with the LeBron thing. I just think he didn't think they'd be in that position. So now that they're at the end of the season and they're in like fifth, sixth, seventh place every other day, he's kind of losing his shit. So it's kind of funny hearing him kind of, I don't know, change his mind, but hearing him say it is actually hilarious right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't like the play-in tournament either. Like, I thought it was just something for the bubble, but if they're going to keep doing this, like, I can see why a player in their late 30s, like LeBron, who takes a lot to get through the season, then you have to go through another tournament when you pretty much secured a playoff spot. Like, I think it should be, if you're close to a playoff spot, you do like a little play-in thing, but like playing both sides, like on the other side to it, if you don't want to be in that position, you got to play better. And the Lakers haven't done that. So the Lakers clearly, they had that fatigue from the playoffs last year, or like in October, and winning the championship. So it carried over to this year. They didn't have the best of performances after the first month. Went on some losing streaks, then they'd win games. They were inconsistent at times. So once LeBron and AD go down, they all got exposed. And I think now it just comes down to playing better. And they're on playoff team. I don't think they're a team on the outside looking in, even if they go into a play-in thing. So it's all going to come down to how they play in this last stretch of games and whether or not they're going to get a favorable matchup in the first round.
I mean, here's the thing with the Lakers, and I've been saying this for a while. You have Anthony Davis and LeBron James go down with injuries, and you sign a guy like an Andre Drummond. At first, I thought this was going to be unreal, and I thought that this was going to be the move that the Lakers needed. You have Drummond, Harrell. They're the big, strong centers, while Davis and LeBron are recovering. And I thought Tylen Horton-Tucker would get a lot more touches, and unfortunately, I don't know what it was. Frank Vogel played him, I think, on average about 18 minutes. He still had Kuzma. He is one of the bigger guys on this team, but he was playing a lot more than I thought. And the chemistry, in the last 10, they're 3-7. They've been struggling as expected because you look at their depth and it's not the greatest. But what are your guys' initial what do you guys think of the Lakers moving into the playoffs? Because it's been a completely different year than last year. LeBron is looking a little more agitated than normal. Anthony Davis has had a pretty bad, I want to say unlucky, but at the same time, he's also been a little underwhelming too. Pagniello knows best with that one. But I just want to quickly talk about guys like what's with their depth? Like Schroeder, these guys are not playing well enough. And if you're going to go up against the Clipper team, who, yes, they just got Rajon Rondo, I don't know. Like the way that they are right now as a team, their morale, I'm really worried. I think this is the first time I'm saying it in the last, I want to say 16 months that this team has been together, that I'm actually genuinely worried about the Lakers' chances. So with this being said, guys, is this the time where a lot of fans are going to start turning on LeBron and going maybe towards a guy like Aulino's boy, Kawhi?
I'm really not worried about the Lakers. Like, honestly, I think the Clippers would be the team to knock them out if they were to get knocked out. But if you take LeBron and AD off that team, like your top guys are Schroeder and Drummond and Kuzma, and then the picture playing the Clippers, and you're going to go up against PG and Kawhi. Like, those aren't good matchups right there. So, like, once Davis and LB come back, everyone slides down. I think everyone's slotted in a perfect position. Because, like, yeah, it's not looking good now because you lose those two guys and you're losing a bunch of games. But overall, I still think they're in a great position. Once they get a couple more games under their belt, get a little more warm, get everyone going again. So I still got the Lakers to the finals easily.
Yeah, they better pray to God that Horton Tucker is playing well, because they could have Kyle Lowry at the deadline for Horton Tucker, and they don't want to get rid of him. So if this guy does not play well and put up numbers and becomes a difference maker, everybody's going to come down to management, and that little honeymoon phase they had by winning is going to go right out the window, because unlike Toronto, LA has two teams in the same building in the same market, and if one's not playing well and the other one starts winning and they're not known for winning, it's all going to trickle down to LeBron, and that's when he packs his bags and leaves. We saw that last time, the other two teams he was on. So they better hope that things turn around, because he has a history of things start looking bad, he'll abandon the ship and dip. So let's hope the Lakers do something.
I just think, you look at, I know, Pagniello, you said you're not really worried about the Lakers. And, it makes sense. I mean, this guy, every time he comes back from injury, he's LeBron James. He carries you to the finals almost every single year. But I don't know, man. Like, the way that this guy, when he gets upset, it's either he balls out and he drops 50, or he basically drops like 15 and sucks out and then doesn't play well. So, I mean, I love LeBron James. I'm one of his biggest fans. But right now, I mean, if anything, the most important thing he has to work on is his morale with this team. And we've seen that at times, everyone's human. You get upset. But at the end of the day, you can't really, drag that energy down to an even lower level. And I've seen that from LeBron James quietly a couple times last year and even the year before that. Remember when he was with Lonzo and all those guys? I remember he looked really agitated that year. And yes, he got the rest he needed. But you look at a guy like Kawhi Leonard, like, he's very calm, collected. It doesn't matter, that he blew the 3-1 lead last year. He comes in this year, business as usual. He's going to play basketball and he's going to try to win. So I don't usually say this often, where I've seen the emotion get the better of LeBron, but I have never seen the emotion get the better of Kawhi. So if Kawhi can bottle this up, just play basketball and be the 2018 self that he was with the Raps, and just the way that the Lakers' aura is right now, I would be worried if I was the Lakers facing the Clippers. So I want to quickly overall talk about the West and the East and talk about the playoff matchups if they were to happen. So the play-in tournament is what? I think it's 7-11, the teams. So if the playoffs were today, you would definitely be seeing some unreal matchups. We would see Philadelphia take on Charlotte, which would be absolutely fun. I think it would be a welcoming sight for LaMelo Ball. You know what I mean? Him going in the postseason, kind of like when Luka had his first playoff series. We get to see how motivated, how driven he is in a playoff scene. Brooklyn versus Boston would be that would be unreal. I would love to see that. I still think Brooklyn obviously wins that. You have the Bucks and the Heat. And, of course, they have their little rivalry going. And then this is the best one, guys. You ready? The Knicks and the Hawks in the 4 and 5 spot. So I know that in the play-in round, you have Hornets, Pacers, Wizards, Raps. The one team, though, that I really have not talked about a lot recently, and now we have to start talking about, is the Washington Wizards. Russell Westbrook, this guy's been going off recently. Last night he dropped 24 assists and 20 rebounds. Is it safe to say that if the Washington Wizards make the postseason, can we see a Russell Westbrook win another MVP title?
I'll put him right there, but if they were to make the playoffs, yeah, his name should absolutely be mentioned. Like, this was not a good team the first couple months of the season, and he just willed them right back into it. I mean, he's been putting up those numbers forever, but it's next level right now compared to the last few years. So him and Beal are just they're carrying right there, and they've had a lot of injury issues in Washington, and yeah, I think they got a few wins up on the Raptors now, so they're comfortably right now in that 10th spot. So it's looking all right over there.
I would put, if this was like the Wizards and Charlotte spot, like all year being an 8th, and Westbrook was doing this, maybe I'd give him consideration, but it's hard to overlook Jokic, Curry, like Embiid even. Those teams are, especially Jokic and Embiid, those guys have been perennial top 5 teams, and like Westbrook has been doing it's impressive, but I think it's just a way that if they just sneak in, it's not like something where Washington has been great all year and they've been in top 5. So it'd be hard to give him the award over a guy like Curry, who's pretty much doing it alone in Golden State. And then Jokic, the kind of season he's had, it's really hard to overlook. So I'll go no, but he'll definitely get consideration for it.
Now we talked about Brooklyn and Philly being like the pillars in the Eastern Conference, but if the Washington Wizards were to make a run into the postseason, who do you think is the highest seeded team that this team could potentially beat?
Boston.
Oh, probably the Knicks.
I don't know, man.
Like, they play top 2?
I feel like, yeah. So they would probably face Philly or Brooklyn in the first round if they made it, unless they can pass. They could take where Miami is, but that's probably not going to happen. So if they were to face, like, I could see them beating the Bucks, as crazy as that sounds. Like, you have Westbrook, you have Bradley Beal, you have Hachimura now averaging like 19, 20 the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't count out this Washington team. This is a team where, just like the 2016 Wizards, I didn't want to face them. And if I'm Giannis and his playoff struggles get the better of him every single year, you don't want to go up against a guy like a Russell Westbrook right now. So I still think if the Bucks were to end up facing the Wizards, it would maybe be a 7-gamer, just based off of how unreal Russell Westbrook is and how great Bradley Beal has been. Bradley Beal is second in scoring, and he's got to share the ball with Russell Westbrook. That is incredible. So Beal Westbrook right now might be the best duo in the league when you look at scoring and how efficient they've been. Obviously, when you have a healthy Harden, KD, and Kyrie, or a healthy AD and LeBron, they're the best duo, and Paul George and Kawhi, and so on and so on. But right now, if the way that Westbrook and Beal are playing, I got my money on the Wizards. So if I'm the Bucks, if I'm a team that can, get by Miami in the first round, and Giannis slays that rivalry, he slaps, Jimmy Butler, get out of here. You took care of me last year, I'll take care of you this year. If he goes in the second round facing a Russell Westbrook, oh my, that would be awesome. It probably wouldn't happen because he'd have to go, against the process and Embiid, and then, the power team in Brooklyn. But just imagine that. Now, Lino, I got to bring it back to what you said. Just imagine Kevin Durant versus Russell Westbrook in the first round of a playoff series. That is prime time. That is must-see TV. So I really hope Washington, like, I love Charlotte. I love, the Celtics. I love all these teams, but I really want to see the Wizards jump into that 7-8 spot just to face the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, it'd be a huge story, especially with Harden and Durant. But like, if they're injured a little bit, that's the only way I see Washington getting through. If not, it's going to be like when Kevin Durant was on Golden State and he ran into Westbrook on OKC and they just took care of him. I don't see Washington right now at that level. So it's going to be a little tough, but I would love to see that.
I think Washington would just be a tough out. I think they would it would be 6-7 game series, but I can't realistically see them beating any of those top 3 teams. That's just my opinion. As great as Russ has been, because he can go 1-for-1 with Giannis, I think he's losing that matchup. I just think the Bucks have a little bit more. But I think with Russ and Beal going off all year, it doesn't really matter what's happening with the rest of the team because they've just been carrying the whole load. I think they'd all be 6-game series, but they'd come up a little short.
All right, so I'm going to end with the East here by saying, so out of these 3 teams here, Miami, Atlanta, and the Knicks, who is the team that will be the biggest surprise if they win a playoff series? Is it safe to say it's the Knicks?
Yeah.
Because right now they sit in the 4 seed and they're a game and a half ahead of Atlanta. But if I'm the Knicks, I really don't want to face Atlanta because Trae Young, we all know how amazing he is. You got John Collins, Capella, Bogdanovich, and Gallinari are starting to finally score. So I don't know. I mean, I love what Julius Randle has done. Obviously you want to see D Rose be successful and get a ring, but right now, I just think the Knicks, yes, they're having a great year. I think Thibodeau is coach of the year, but when you're in that 4th spot, man, it's a really, really tough spot to be in.
Yeah, I think going into the year, I had them around bottom 5, the Knicks. So they're obviously, we know Randall's always been, he would always stuff the stat sheet over the years, but this year he's really coming to his own, and D Rose's game, and Bear keeps progressing, but I've been waiting for the drop off. I don't think it's gonna happen. They're just like this now. So I feel like the Knicks would be the most surprising team out of the 3 there, but even next year, I'm gonna say the same thing. I don't have them in this position again.
No, but I'm saying, so out of the Knicks and the Hawks, out of the 2 teams, who is the team that you think would be more surprising, winning and moving on in the playoffs? Is it still the Knicks, or is it this Hawks team that we still really have no idea, how good they can be?
Yeah, probably the Knicks. Probably be more surprised with that. Just because I still don't see them to be like that, but they are.
Yeah, probably the Knicks. That's all I have for that. Because I can't see any other possibility. That's probably their best bet. Because the Knicks, that's their thing. Disappointing. So, wouldn't be surprised.
All right, so I'm going to quickly go to the West. So we got the Jazz. They would take on either the Warriors, the Trailblazers, the Grizzlies, the Spurs, Pelicans. Again, the Pelicans. In a similar spot last year. They're in the 11th spot right now. Can you see them potentially winning and going in this play-in tournament, or do you still want to see a team like Golden State go in instead of the Pelicans?
Give me Golden State. Just the way Steph's playing. He's right there in MVP vote, and I feel like he deserves it. So, but if the Pelicans get in over the Spurs, that's a heavy play-in series right there with 7-10. So you'd have Portland, the Warriors, and fucking Zion and Ingram just squeezing in there. So that would be a fun few games for sure. But I'm going to give that to Steph if it comes down to those 2 teams.
Yeah, Golden State probably just edges them out, but I don't know if Zion were in there. That makes everything interesting because they've proven they can upset a few teams. And him and Ingram together, those are 2 dangerous players, 2 incredibly hard matchups for other teams. Zion in the playoffs, I think, would be a matchup problem in a 7-game series. So a team I wouldn't want to be in there is the Pelicans just because of that. And you either try your luck with just Curry shooting threes and going out on the perimeter there with Wiggins and Draymond because, Clay's, I don't think he's going to be back. So that's probably your best bet if you're going to try and squeeze through the first round if you're one of those top teams.
Well, I'm going to quickly name you guys all this series. If they were to play right now, and I want you to quickly say which one you would be most excited to see. I think one really sticks out to me. Obviously, Clippers Lakers would probably be the best one, but there's a couple here that are actually, I think actually every single one would be unreal. So you have the Jazz would take on the Warriors, the Trailblazers would take on the Suns, the Nuggets would take on the Mavs, and the Clippers would take on the Lakers. So I still think like this is probably the dream playoff matchup for everybody. At least for me, it is. Out of these two teams, between the Nuggets with Jokic and the Mavs with Doncic, who is winning that series?
Oh, I'll still give that to Denver. That's a close one though. It's a good matchup. I think Jokic just been carrying all year. He's having that kind of year. And PJ stepping in, Aaron Gordon, I feel like they got a little more depth over there. So that could be a 7-game series. The way Luka's been playing all year, I think it would just be back and forth with their 40-point games. They would go back and forth for the 7th game. But like, that's a close one. I'd give it to Denver just by a hair.
I think for this one, I'm going to give it to Dallas just because Jamal Murray's out and you're relying too much, I think, on Aaron Gordon. I think he's a complementary piece for those two. And if you go to Dallas, you have probably Porzingis who would be back by then. And that's probably full strength right there. Like those two playing off each other, I think it would be too much for Jokic, but Jokic, I think, would make it interesting. I think it would be a 6 to 7 game series. It won't be a sweep. And you would see Jokic just dominate in the paint, put up incredible numbers, but come out short, I think.
Yeah, that's probably for me. That's probably the closest series out of all of them. Even Portland, I could even see upset Phoenix, and that'd be pretty jokes. Not gonna lie, but I still think you look at a lot of things can happen in the West. Just looking at who's in the lower spots, Lillard and Curry, they can carry your team at least to a second round. That's how great they are. In terms of the Nuggets, though, I think this has to be the year where you got to go far. I mean, Jokic, 25 years old. I don't think he's going to get better than this year. I think this is his peak. I think this is as good as it gets with Jokic. I come on, I can't see him averaging better than the stats he's doing this year. He's been number one all year. He's the best player in the league. If Denver can't really beat out Dallas, a guy like Doncic is incredible, don't get me wrong, but still only his 3rd year in the league, still very green. He's got a lot to learn, especially defensively, but I still gotta give this, to Denver. I still think Denver's the team to potentially beat, as crazy as it sounds. I think, when you look at all the teams healthy, I mean, even without Jamal Murray, they're still a pretty scary team. So I'm still going to go with Denver there. But in terms of, the playoff matchups, I think in the NBA, it's going to be absolutely outstanding down the stretch. We've seen great seasons from Curry, Westbrook, all these guys who are trying to make the postseason. So down the stretch, boys, it's going to be fun in the NBA. But that's it for the NBA. You guys have anything to add with wrestling? Shoot it up.
Oh, yeah. So what's wrong? Oh, so obviously, looking at Westbrook, I think this is a perfect picture, even though it's NBA. But
it is.
What is wrong with WWE RAW?
A lot, man. There's a lot of stuff that's there's a lot of stuff that's wrong, and I'll just stick to it, plain and simple, creative. I think you look at where everyone is on the roster right now, the booking decisions that have been going on the last little while. Like, don't get me wrong, I've loved Lashley as champion, but him disbanding the Hurt Business still to me did not really make a lot of sense. That kind of just dropped. The whole thing with Drew and what was going on there with Braun and with what's that those two guys, I don't know their names, I forget their names. But it's just been a disaster. Like, even the main event, you would think that they would make it a little more clear as to, how the storyline's going to pan out or how it's been panning. Basically just Lashley saying how I've chased this title for 16 years and no one's going to drop, like I'm never going to drop this. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to the triple threat. It should be hard hitting. It's going to probably be a no disqualification, but other than that, not a lot of bright spots on Raw right now.
What do we think of the Randy Orton Matt Riddle pairing?
Oh man,
I want Aulino to start that because I'm gonna go on a rant with that. So
it has possibilities, we'll say. He's got the scooter. Orton's got the RKO. It looks like he's a face now after he's setting people on fire just as 3 months ago. But yeah, I don't know where they're going with it. I thought it'd just lead to a nice one-on-one match. Riddle takes a loss, gets the big rub, and they go their separate ways. But it looks like they're committed to this. And I saw Mick Foley post on Twitter that he sees Orton and Riddle as being like a rock and sock connection for this generation.
Oh yeah, that's you know what? Like I can see that, but time and time again, it's the same booking, man, with Orton when it comes to tag teams. And I know it's gonna be awesome when it does eventually happen. We want to see Randy RKO Matt Riddle. We know it's gonna happen. It's coming eventually. Whether they win the Raw tag titles or not, it's probably going to happen in like a comical way, which pisses me off because you have almost an AJ with the titles right now. And even when they won it, I was kind of like, okay, it's great and all, you have almost debut, but what the hell? There's really no teams out there. There's no direction. So I do get the Mick Foley, the Rock and Sock connection, they do have that chemistry and that charisma with each other, especially Riddle riding around with that scooter and Randy Orton just being his entertaining dark self. But if they don't win the Raw tag team titles, I think this is a flat out waste of time. And I don't really want to see Riddle versus Randy Orton in just a typical singles feud. So to me, this whole thing just screams underwhelming.
I think the timing's just throwing everyone off.
Definitely.
So what you guys just said, it was lighting people on fire, and then now he's fucking chilling with the guy and he's getting high, riding around on his fucking scooter backstage. It's jokes, but it just, it kind of threw everyone off because it's such an intense feud, and then to go from that to that, it's like, what the hell are we doing here? But I don't think it'll put a dent on Randy. I think he's just having fun now.
Another thing I wanted to talk about with Raw that pissed me off is you have this guy Mansoor who's been undefeated on NXT for the longest time. And he comes up and he loses to Sheamus. And now it was a great match. It was a pretty damn good match. It might have been one of the best in the night. But just the way they've showcased him and the way it just kind of went down the drain like that. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Mansoor was incredible in NXT. He was a guy that came up from the Saudi show. We didn't really know who he was. In NXT, he's been killing it, and then he gets fed to Sheamus on Raw. So I guess what are your thoughts on that? Does that elevate Sheamus's heel run as the U.S. champ? Is he the next challenger? We really have no idea.
Should elevate Sheamus. Should get him more heat as champ. But the Mansoor thing, whose ever idea that was, to have him come up and lose, that probably was the payoff. We'll have him up on Raw. We'll give him his shot against Sheamus on the flagship show and then send his ass back down. There's the payoff for Mansoor. They did him dirty like that. But should be good for Sheamus because that's obviously a nice story he's been going on, Mansoor, and then to have him lose like that. People boo Sheamus to begin with, so it should be good.
Yeah, Mansoor had a Goldberg streak going on Main Event, so this was probably for the best. Don't let it get too out of hand where Mansoor's on TV one week and he's like 185-0. At least he loses. He can now go and have matches where wins, loses, and doesn't have a streak part of a storyline because a lot of people wouldn't buy into it, I think, as it got longer. So he gets a U.S. title match, loses the championship opportunity, and now Sheamus goes on as his heel, and he doesn't want to really give open challenges. He's kind of forced. So I like how they're building him up like that, where he doesn't want to be a traditional open challenge, give everyone an opportunity kind of guy. So hopefully it keeps on elevating the U.S. title, because unfortunately that's been a title that's been relegated to like the pre-show and no one really caring. So Sheamus, I think, is the guy to bring it back.
Another thing too that I really want to bring up with Raw was, or not Raw, but last week was, because I know we're gonna forget about talking about it. We're gonna forget it. Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns comes out. Cesaro, you're not. You don't deserve a title shot. I'm going to give it to Bryan, and if he loses, he's done. And I love that. And then he loses. So Daniel Bryan is now officially suspended from SmackDown forever. Roman Reigns is still the champion. He's still putting out concertos. What are your guys' thoughts on this result, and what do you guys see from Roman Reigns and Cesaro moving forward?
Oh, Roman's an asshole, isn't he? Just beating Bryan in like that and then killing everyone's hopes and dreams. But I think it's similar for the Sheamus thing. It does wonders for Roman. Just for the guys on next level heel right now, and this just keeps adding more fuel to the fire. So I love it for Roman, and for Bryan. Maybe he disappears for 3 weeks and shows up on the black and yellow brand. So I think lots of possibilities here as well.
Yeah, I think Daniel Bryan, this is the best case scenario. He was on SmackDown for, I think, since the brand split. He was a GM, and he was there every year as a active performer. So it's a little recharge, a little refresh for him. Now he's able to even go on Raw. Maybe he faces Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank or something, and they have a little feud. Wouldn't mind seeing that. Or he goes to NXT, shows up there, has a feud with Karrion Kross or Adam Cole before Adam Cole eventually leaves. But I wouldn't mind seeing him on NXT. I think it would be something different. It might look at it as a little bit of a demotion if he goes down there and feuds with Johnny Gargano and those guys. But if it's a short-term thing and he ends up back on Raw or SmackDown again when they do another shakeup, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, and of course, the opportunities are endless if you're a guy like Bryan. You look at all the names that are down in NXT, and I'm pretty sure he wants to wrestle at least even another guy we haven't really mentioned, and he's kind of been down there for a while, is Finn Balor. I'd love to see Finn Balor versus Daniel Bryan in a singles match, just for fun. Do you guys remember that pay-per-view when I think it was Roman? He got, what did he have? He had the mumps, so they had to do Finn versus AJ. And that was incredible. So that would definitely give NXT fans like that type of vibe. A Bryan versus Finn Balor, a Bryan versus an Adam Cole. That would be incredible. But even again, if he were to go to Raw, he can go up against the Sheamus for the United States title. That would completely elevate the title. They have that WrestleMania type. They have that WrestleMania type of feud. They have that history. So. That would be awesome, like you said, with Bobby Lashley. Even if you want to elevate Braun Strowman as a heel, you can maybe have Braun versus Daniel. I know no one wants to see that, but if you really wanted to elevate Braun from floundering around, instead you could put him in a meaningful singles match against Daniel Bryan. So there's a lot of opportunities there. I absolutely love what Roman's been doing as a heel, but let's be honest, guys. Cesaro, love the run he's been on. Does he have a remote shot at beating Roman Reigns? And if so, is it through a singles match? Or maybe how about he wins the Money in the Bank?
Cesaro, eh? I like it. I don't think he's got I think they're building him up. I think they're doing a great job of building him up to make him a credible opponent for Roman. And it's just going to be another guy he can take down. But you know what, man? I'm loving the ride because he deserves it. He's been in the shitter for years when it comes to these kinds of spots in certain times, and he's finally getting it now. So I don't think he's going to take the title, but I'm loving everything I'm seeing from him.
Yeah, I think this just adds him to the Money in the Bank match. I think is going to make him a credible guy to win it. One of the favorites. I'd like to see Shinsuke get back in the mix there. I remember it looked like they were building him up a lot. That one episode, did a good job of it. And then Jey Uso, it looked like they were teasing something there, and they never really followed through. But if Shinsuke's next, you have Cesaro going the Money in the Bank, you have Shinsuke Roman. I think that's a good plan to keep Cesaro's momentum going, keep Roman's momentum going, and still have these kind of main event matches.
Before I want to touch up on, you guys wanting to maybe end this pod and, any initial thoughts on wrestling, I want to quickly talk about Jey Uso. Is because he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and he's had an unreal year. I know it's crazy to think, but can you see a guy like Jey Uso winning the Money in the Bank briefcase and ending up maybe cashing in on a Roman Reigns down the line?
Down the line, sure. I don't want them to fuck with what they got going, though. But I don't think anyone's well, maybe just because he's been in a tag team forever, but he's just such an amazing performer. I don't think anyone's surprised with the fact that he's doing what he's doing right now. It's a different look for him, and he's knocking it out of the park. So, yeah, like if they went with that storyline, like if he's eventually going at it with Roman over the title, that would just be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be good. I'm actually kind of surprised, like, if Apollo Crews wasn't the Intercontinental Champ, I wouldn't mind seeing Jey Uso taking that title, and you can have, like, maybe Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, whatever they're doing, still carry over without the title involved. But now it looks like they're going to go with Apollo Crews and Sami Zayn because Sami Zayn, he got attacked there. He looked like they were all on the same page, and Apollo Crews doesn't want Sami Zayn's help, so I think that's going to form something with Kevin Owens. Maybe they go on a tag run, but yeah, I think Jey Uso, if he's going to win a title, I'd like to see him take the Intercontinental title.
I agree. Anything else you guys want to add?
I'm good, Holmes.
Alrighty, there's a little bit I want to add here. Did you guys see there's a new return coming up in WWE? It's causing a lot of people to be a little upset.
Who is?
Who is it?
It's Eva Marie, and it looks like I looked at Twitter, and it's just a shit storm of people just ripping on WWE, saying you can't wrestle, like all this stuff. And this is, you know what? I'm thinking about this. She should win the title her first match as a heel. Can you imagine? They're building up Charlotte and this whole thing, and just imagine her swooping in there. Maybe that's what gets Ric Flair back on the show, and he said he was going to go after get the women's championship. His client, what if this is his backup, and we got a new champion first match on the show.
Honestly, like they need to really think long and hard about this, because I remember at one point, you guys are going to laugh, but they used to love Summer Rae before they knew how good, before they knew like what she was in the ring. Same with Eva Marie all those years ago with Total Divas when she was on it. You knew they were really high on her just based on the looks, but the in-ring work was just abysmal. So if she's like tremendously improved, then sure, I'm all for it. But then this starts, questioning girls like Mandy Rose and all these other girls who've been in that type of situation before and they haven't really pulled the trigger. And of course, you have Rhea Ripley and, Asuka and Charlotte. Those are three big names. So if Eva Marie were to just come in and be a part of those three, I think a lot of fans would turn off the television. That's just me.
I remember hearing these rumors like 3 years ago and just being like, yeah, okay, the ship has sailed.
Isn't she like 40? Like, isn't she old?
She's around that, yeah.
Oh my God.
But, the evolution, yeah, it's going to piss people off. Can't wait.
Yeah, Aulino, this is not going to be good.
I did a quick Google search. Yeah, up there. 36, going to be 37 in September. Time to pull the trigger. Yeah. Adopt the Owen show. That would piss so much people off. I think that's what they're trying to aim at. But I don't know. I think it might have a bad effect. It might not be the kind of heel heat they want on a show that's already causing people to turn it off.
But like, what are your expectations character-wise? Is she just gonna come in and like replace what Lacey was doing? Like, I really don't know how great of a heel she can really be. So, and again, people are probably not going to be interested or invested. So it's going to be hard either way. She's turning 37. If there is a time, I'm trying to be as positive as possible. If there is a time, it's probably now. So if they're going to do the return, maybe SmackDown is the better show, because we're looking right now and Sasha's kind of, I think she's going MIA, and Bianca Belair is really not even caring about her title. She's more involved with, the Street Profits. So maybe Eva should go to SmackDown, maybe not Raw, but she has the red hair, so it definitely is appropriate for Raw.
I think they got something up their sleeve over there. I don't think they'll let the same thing happen again with the same person.
Oh, man. And there's something else here. Alexa Bliss is having these playground segments with that Lily doll. I guess it's supposed to be feuding with Rambling Rabbit. But what's the end goal here? Because I don't see Bray Wyatt on TV. I don't see The Fiend. Randy is he's having fun with Matt Riddle. So I don't know what the hell they're doing here.
Yeah, this is the worst case scenario. When I looked at this feud like in January and how each character would kind of elevate, this is the worst case. The Fiend losing at Mania shocked everybody. The way it ended, okay, it kind of, if you're going to elevate Alexa Bliss, that's fine, but they really haven't. The Fiend has, like you said, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, they have not been around. Randy all of a sudden now is a face. Whether he wants to, I don't even think he believes it. So he's a face right now with Matt Riddle. I don't know if this means they're just putting it on the back burner for now. Like maybe around SummerSlam you could reignite something, but that's a while from now. That's like 3 months. So I don't know how long. I think the biggest thing here is it depends how long the Fiend is out and, when he's going to come back and make his presence known. So, but yeah, in terms of how Randy has kind of come about all this, it's probably the most disappointing out of all of them, because Alexa Bliss is still getting her moments, whereas you just look at Randy and he just kind of got thrown into a tag team. So after being the WWE champion. So with that being said, worst case scenario, I still think this leads to Alexa Bliss eventually winning the Raw Women's title.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell she's doing though with her little playground segments. I think they're just trying to keep you in the loop and try to remind you that, oh yeah, this is still happening. But yeah, it might be on the back burner, like you said, for now.
But yeah, that's it for this week, right?
Yeah, that's a solid show here.
Talking about McDavid's brilliance. Matthews going to win the Rocket Richard. Guys, when was the last time we saw a Leaf win the Rocket? Oh my God. I don't think ever. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, we just talked about WWE Creative, how they've been in and out of being entertaining and being horrible. So I'm looking forward to Bobby Lashley versus Braun versus Drew. I think that's going to be a war. Just the way they built it is kind of underwhelming. Please don't have Braun Strowman win the title. That's all I got to say to that. But with that being said, that's it for this week. Episode 129 in the zone. Make sure to listen to us on all our socials. Follow us on our Twitter, our Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. We are everywhere. Make sure to listen, comment, subscribe, like our stuff. Stay tuned for more.